Good morning, 8th grade. Today is Thursday, June 11th. Just to bring to your attention, we will be having our Google Meet today. So bring your questions, bring your understanding so you can help someone else understand. We will be meeting at 10 o'clock for class 810 and at 11:45 for class 813. Let's take a look at our lesson today. We are going to continue with the Pythagorean Theorem. And I know it's a little difficult. It's really hard. I think it's even harder to have to learn this online. But I think all of you can get it. So, take out your notebooks. Put today's date on it. Write out today's target, and today's target is I can explore the Pythagorean theorem through the use of the formula and application. So let's take a look at our warm-up. We have this triangle, and we want to know, is this a right triangle? So one of the uses of the Pythagorean theorem is to determine if a triangle is a right triangle. There's no indication, there's no square anywhere, and never assume that a drawing is drawn to scale. So, because obviously this is not 40 inches, and it certainly isn't 40 centimeters. It could possibly be 40 millimeters, but I very much doubt it. So we're going to take a look at our drawing. So to determine if this is a right triangle, I know that my hypotenuse has to be the longest side. So since 41 is the bigger number, that has to be my hypotenuse. And so the 9 would be one of my legs, and the 40 would be another leg. And I could also think of this as this would be my side A, my side B, and my side C. So I take my Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and I plug in the numbers. So I have 9 squared plus 40 squared, and I want to see, does that equal 41 squared? And now I just calculate it. You can put it in the calculator, you can do it by hand. So 9 squared gives me 81. 40 squared gives me 1600. And 41 squared gives me, hold on one minute, 1681. And when I add these two together, I get 1681. And does that equal 1681? Yes, it does. Who knew? But this is actually a right triangle. So yes, it is a right triangle. So that is one of the uses of the Pythagorean theorem, to determine if a triangle that's given to you, and you know all the sides, to determine if it is actually a right triangle. Now we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to be able to find a missing side. And to be able to do that, now you can understand why we did our lesson on Tuesday. We need to use square roots. So the definition of a square root, to remind you, is that we want the square root of a number is one of its two equal factors. So if x squared equals y, then x is a square root of y. For example, the square root of 49 is 7, since 7 times 7, or 7 squared, is 49. It is also true that negative 7 times negative 7 equals 49, so negative 7 is another square root of 49. We're not going to be working with negatives because triangles do not have negative side lengths. So here's a practice. Square root of 81 what times itself equals 81? I know that 9 times 9 is 81, so the square root of 81 is 9. And the square root of 225, same thing. What times itself equals 225? You do not, a very common mistake that people make is they divide it by 2. You are not dividing these numbers by 2. You need to think of your factors. You need to think about what times itself equals 225. And I know that 15 times 15 equals 225, so the square root of 225 is 15. Okay, using the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side lengths. So here's my triangle. I know it's a right triangle because there's the little square in the corner, and I'm given the measures of the two side lengths, and I need to find the hypotenuse. So I'm just going to use substitution. Here's my drawing. And I'm going to use my formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'm going to substitute. I'm going to put 9 for a, 12 for b, and I want to know what is c squared. So 9 squared is 81, 12 squared is 144, and that equals c squared. And if you notice, I keep bringing down my c squared. I add these up, so I get 225 equals c squared. But I don't want to know what c squared is. I want to know what is c. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, because whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. The square root of c squared is c, because c times c equals c squared. And the square root of 225, well, we just did that in the problem before, so I know that is 15. So back to my triangle, I know c is 15. That side length, my hypotenuse, equals 15. And in this case, 15 centimeters. Okay. So here we have 2 practice problems. I'm going to do one of them with you, and I'm going to leave the other one for you to do on your own. And actually, I am going to do the first one, so let's take a look. Here's my drawing. I have 12, I have 37. Now I'm looking at this, and here is my right angle, and I know that the side opposite my right angle is my hypotenuse, so this equals c. And I'm just going to say my 12 equals a, and I don't know what my b is. So again, I start with my a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and I'm going to substitute the different parts that I know. So I know a, I'm going to plug in 12 to the second power. I don't know what b is, so that's going to stay as b squared. And c is 37, so I'm going to put in 37 squared. Okay, so now I'm going to just solve it. 12 squared is 144 plus b squared equals 37 squared, which is 1,369. Now I'm going to solve, I need to solve for my b, so I'm going to do the inverse operation and isolate my b. So I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides. And I get b squared equals, let's see, that's a 5, that's a 2, 1,225. Now, I want to know what b is, not what b squared is, but what b is. So I take the square root of both sides, again, inverse operations to undo the square, and I get b equals 35. So going back to my triangle, this side length equals 35. And I can check this by just plugging in, going back and saying 12 squared plus 35 squared. Does that equal 37 squared? And I get 144 plus 1,225. Does that equal 1,369? And when I add this up, I get 1,369 equals 1,369. So yes, I am correct. I did the problem correctly. Okay. So here we have a real world situation. Excuse me 1 minute. It says use the figure below about how many miles is it from downtown to the harbor, round to the nearest whole mile. So here I have my drawing. We have our highway exchange. So you would just normally, for something like this, you would have a picture or a map. And by using your map, you would be able to figure out what this distance is that you're looking for. So here's my picture, and I'm looking for what this distance is right here. And I know from the highway to the harbor, it is 4 miles. And I know from the highway to downtown, it's 8 miles. And this is what surveyors do all the time. Like you'll see the people out on the streets with like a tripod, and they're and they'll set it up in the middle of the street, and what they're doing is they're taking measurements, and this is exactly how they're doing it. They're setting a point, and they are taking these measurements, and then they'll use those measurements to find the third measurement. So we have, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'm just going to plug in. Well, here is I know 8 is my c because that is opposite of my right angle. And I'm going to say 4 is my a. I'm looking for my b, and my c squared, or my c, is 8. So I have 4 squared plus b squared equals 8 squared, and then I just solve. So 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16, plus my b squared. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. I'm going to do inverse operations so I can isolate my b. So I subtract 16 from both sides. I bring down my b squared equals, I subtract, so I get 8. 5 minus 1 gives me 4. So now I want to take the square root. So I take the square root of b squared, the square root of 48, and I get b equals, and if you notice when you plug this in, this is not a perfect square. You're going to get a decimal. So so when I plug it in the calculator, and if you notice in the stream, there's a calculator if you don't have one, or you can use your phone and turn it sideways so that you have the scientific calculator on your phone. And we get 6.9282 blah blah blah. And we want to know, the question was about how many miles. So I want to know to the whole mile. So here I have my whole mile. I'm going to look to the number directly that comes right after it. And that's a 9. It's 5 or bigger. So I'm going to round up. So B is approximately 7 miles. And that's it. So when you're done, you go back to your classwork, you open up your classwork assignment, and you fill in your Google form. Please take your time. Please take out a piece of paper so you can do the work. And I will see all of you at, let's see, 8:10 I'll see at 10 o'clock, and 8:13 I'll see at 11:45. Have a good day.